Perfect. So without further ado, let's kick off this demo day to end the year. We will go into all the changes that Axya made to its product, the different modules that we offer, what it looked like on a buyer side, what it looked like on the supplier side, and really walk you through the platform. So again, please put your question in the chat. We'll answer them throughout the conversation. And to start this presentation, we'll focus on the supplier side. So as a manufacturing company, the purchasing team has a list of suppliers that they've already worked with or that they would like to work with. And as you can see, it's directly available within that phase, that place in your interface.
Yeah, and one interesting thing is you have a list of approved and discovery supplier, and the key difference between the two is approved suppliers are suppliers that you bring onto the platform. So these could be suppliers you've been working with for a long time, or they come as a part of a list with that connection with the ERP that you make with the platform. And discovery is the suppliers that you use Axya supplier directory, which Felix is going to show in a moment, and add them to your platform just because either they were interesting or you tested them with one of the parts and they did a good job. You could accumulate those lists and then keep them separate for your team to go and navigate through.
Yeah, exactly. And each of the supplier have their own profile that you can look at. This is quite useful when you're onboarding new members of your team. So as a newcomer, I might not be familiar with that supplier, but I can quickly look at their profile, some project they worked on, the equipment that they have, their capacities, and it allowed me to quickly ramp up and understand the supply base.
Yeah, and one feature,
Hamad.
Felix, that I wanted to add here, yeah, sorry for the introduction, is we speak to a lot of suppliers and they often complain that their ERP system, the emails are often outdated of the supplier because maybe the individual left the company and they kind of have to manually update it. Whereas this acts as a pseudo vendor management tool where all of your supplier information stays up to date because A, the suppliers are updating them, and B, it's smart. It's connected to your request, to your order. So if somebody isn't answering or the email bounces, this updates it and keeps the most up-to-date list for you without you doing a lot of effort to maintain that list, which is something I've seen suppliers really enjoy.
Yeah, great comment. And those suppliers, rather than informing all of their customers of the new equipment that they acquired, they just upload it in the platform. They do it once and everyone is instantly informed. Now we'll move into the request section. So this is where, as a buyer from the company, I would be managing the different requests that I have. So there's the names, some information about the users. I could be collaborating with someone from the engineering team. They would also have access to this. And depending on the type of permission that we provide, a user might only see the request that they're created, or an administrator might be able to look at all the requests. And we put some simple information to understand what is what, but my favorite part is really the status because it allows you to quickly understand what's going on.
Yeah, and we've seen with buyers, this is like your early morning meeting. You come in, you bring in your team of procurement folks, and then you look at these statuses. These statuses are smart. So on track means that the request was put and everything seems to be on track. The suppliers are responding, they've intended to bid, and the system is able to detect that this RFQ, you don't have to worry about it that much. At risk means that the suppliers are just not responding yet. It's not blocked, but it's at risk because you send out that request, you put the expiry date. The expiry date has not been reached, but not enough action have been taken from the suppliers, which means that either they have not viewed it, so maybe you want to send them a gentle reminder, or there's not enough interest on the request, and you need to have a look at it and evaluate if it's at risk. Blocked essentially means that the date has exceeded and you don't have enough responses. So when you come in the morning and having that morning coffee with your team, you just come in, you can use the filters to filter the request, and then you can work your way through from the block request all the way to the ones that are on track and if it requires your attention.
Definitely. So it's a great way to collaborate, prioritize, and it's really appreciated by the users. If you look at the different ongoing requests, we'll dive into an example of one to see what it would look like. As we mentioned, you have your collaborators, but if for whatever reason you want to add another person, could be someone from the engineering team to answer a specific question, just in a few clicks, you can add them to the request. and they will be informed that their support is required for a specific request. They can either engage by email and the system will put that information within the platform, or they can log in with their account and see what is going on. Another great thing is that you have that summary, and here you see the different part lists that would have been updated, but we worked really hard into making available a CAD viewer in the platform, and it saves a lot of time for the people.
Yeah, and one really cool thing about this is that the supplier also gets these views. So you save all the time that you need to open a software, upload this file, download this file, and then work it off on that software. You as a buyer and the suppliers who are part of that request can view that and share their comments. You can just take a screenshot from this and send it and collaborate whether you want to change a part or anything. And then it also has some cool features where you can actually change the dimensions, change the texture, and then evaluate if this is a good drawing to go through. So this is very convenient for you because all the drawings with the AutoCAD viewer, you don't have to install any additional software and you're able to view them in real time.
Yeah, another great example is when you invite your other colleagues, so the part name is just a long number and the person need to provide insights, they use the CAD viewer. And we also have an extractor that can extract all the technical information, dimension, tolerances, material, so you don't need to manually yourself upload all that information. From there, what you can see is the different suppliers. So the suppliers that you invited to bid on the request, suppliers you've worked with in the past, you can see if they submitted the quote, if they viewed it, if they showed it in them to bid. And in some cases, you might have asked the system to open the request to other qualified supplier from the Axya network, and you can track the different type of bids that you would have received.
Yeah, and we've heard a lot of stories from buyers where, if you had known that the suppliers have not viewed it or they're not interested early on in the request process, you would have saved a lot of time. Generally, what tends to happen is you reach that expiry date of the request, and that's when you figure out that the supplier says, hey, I don't have capacity, I can't do it, or I'm very busy right now, or this is not interesting for me. Finding that information out at the end of the request date is a recipe for disaster. So having access to that information, which the system does, is it tells you if the supplier has viewed it, or are they intending to bid, or have they submitted, helps you save a lot of time and reduce a lot of risk that could happen if you don't do that.
It's also the same place where you would see if they did not provide a bid and they would give you a reason. So great way to assess it. But the other thing that we like is the automated follow-up.
Yeah, this is a way for you to just click and forget. So if you have 15 suppliers in a request that you have invited, now, essentially what you're doing with emails is you're sending them manual follow-ups. Hey, the date is approaching, please can you respond? And you're doing all of that and you're managing all of that. That's okay if you just have one request a day to take care of. But what if you have 15 requests a day to do? Multiply that by the number of suppliers, it becomes a headache. So what automated follow-up does is it's actually smart. It knows which suppliers have seen it and have not replied. It knows who have submitted it and who have not submitted and who have intended. And it only sends out the follow-up emails, which of course you can customize when it's necessary. So it automatically triggers that, sends those emails to the suppliers, and you get to know that they've seen the automated follow-up email. So this is a great way for you to just click and forget, and then you come on to it if there's an issue that persists.
Exactly. It provides peace of mind. You know that you will get the response that you need on time. The system is taking care of it. And with the time that you free, you can focus on things that really matter. So you have one-on-one communication with each of the suppliers. You would also be able to have group conversation, for example, if you make an update. But with the free time, you can spend the required time to look at what they said. In this case, they might want to validate that the finish is the same as historical prices. And that's what really matters. Investing in the relationship with your supplier, making sure that they have all the special information to take the best decisions. Now, once you've received all those prices, they are presented in a single format that make it super easy to compare. You can notice that we have different currencies. It would be the currency provided by the supplier, but you also have a conversion that can be seen below it. And when you look at the breakdown of a part, that's where you can see all the details that were provided by the supplier.
Yeah, and what's really cool is the system is able to parse PDFs and and scan the emails to get the information in the state. So here you can see the supplier might have shared the code in a PDF format, but we're able to understand that code, parse it, and put it in a way where you, as a buyer, can compare apples to apples and know which supplier you would like to go for. So here you see how many weeks the supplier is asking as a lead time, price compared from CAD. If the supplier quotes in dollars, you'll see it in dollars and you'll see the conversion rate as well. But this allows for you to have a single screen to view all the codes.
Exactly. And what is great with that parser is that you also have the original file. So some example suppliers will generate a PDF out of their ERP and send it to you. What we hear is that a buyer needs to take all those PDF, put that in an Excel spreadsheet, and then start to compare. In this case, you have original data and the Axya view that make it really easy to compare. Talking about comparison, I know we work really hard on that feature. This is one that I'm really excited to show. It's the quote comparison.
Yeah, here you get a detailed part level view of the code compared next to each other. And it has some really cool features as well. So customized view, basically you can click on that and you can say on what parameters or dimensions you want to compare. So you can compare by currency, if you want to put lead time, price, and you can define how you want to compare that. So it sort of customizes the columns you want to look at. It kind of works very similar to how you would otherwise download the PDFs, put them on Excel. Somebody sends it as a PDF, somebody sends it as Excel, and it takes you a lot of time to put it on an Excel. This just helps you have all of those codes just next to each other and be able to customize your view and see it. One really cool feature we added is auto select lowest price. So maybe you don't want to award the contract to one supplier and you want to split it. So you want to go with the one that has quoted the less price. You could just click on that one button and it automatically selects on the part level what is the lowest price that you want to go for, and then this information could be also sent to the suppliers as an award in one click.
Yeah, exactly. And those scenarios can be configured with the customer. So for example, when you're ordering hardware, a bunch of nuts and bolts, this is a really useful feature. But as a buyer, you might say, hey, I'm looking at this, just placing an order with that supplier adds a lot of work. I'd rather have only two suppliers. Which one is the next cheapest for this part? It would be this one. And I'm more comfortable with placing an order with two different suppliers. And that's really where buyers are shining. They have the full context. They understand what is best for the organization, and the platform take care of doing all the manipulation of the data. Once you're ready with that decision, you simply have to award the selection. You have the summary of what was decided. And when you proceed, each of the suppliers are individually informed of the decision. This means that the supplier that got a job have the detail of what was awarded with the conclusion. And the suppliers that didn't get parts are also informed that this RFQ is over and they won't be getting any orders coming out of this. It allows them to prioritize their work, manage their expectation, and really understand what is going on.
Exactly. And this messaging can be configured. So you can add your custom text, how you want to inform the ones that are not being rewarded or inform the ones that are being awarded. You set how you want to set the template. So because it's actually sent through your email as it's synced with your email, you kind of decide how you want that templating to be. But what you essentially are doing is automating a lot of that manual work that you have to do for each request. And you're able to do it in 3 clicks instead of taking an hour to finalize this outside of the ERP system.
Exactly, and it doesn't require any extra work. So as soon as you place the order, suppliers are informed, they can order the raw material, prepare their equipment. So overall, it shortened the time to get your parts, and it simplified your life and the life of your suppliers. Once that order is placed, we can connect it with the ERP, so the order is automatically created, and you'll be able to track your orders from that tab. Depending on the type of users you are, you could only focus on the request part, only focus on the order part, or have a combination of both views, and it allows you to focus your attention on the different areas and the different orders that are there.
Yeah, and orders are generally more important to track, because once the order is placed with the supplier, that's when the race actually begins between you and your collaboration with the supplier. Is it in production? Has it already been produced? Is it delivered? What's the tracking number? So this system essentially allows you to track all of those orders in one place and collaborate with your suppliers and to be able to track all of that in real time.
So you can use a different filtering system to focus your attention on the right thing, exactly like we did for the request for quotation. For example, here, if we look at an updated order, what it means is that the supplier got the confirmation that they got the job. The first thing that they receive is the PO, and they had to inform you that for whatever reason, they want to change the delivery date. So you would see that the order follow-up was automatically sent. Again, no work on your side, but once they started production, they told you that the delivery would be different, so you can mark it as seen from here. And it allows you to keep all the logs of the actions that were taken. So if we dive into, for example, the ship part, where we would have multiple information in it, you'll be able to see that you have all the delivery date, all the historical information. So in the case where a date has been changed multiple times, you don't forget it, and you're able to use that data to feed the different reporting that we're able to generate.
Yeah, and this is critical when you're doing postmortem. So let's say an order got late, right? And there was a lot of communication that happened between you and your supplier. The date changed multiple times. What essentially a buyer has to do now is they'll go search their emails, read each email, figure out what happened and what went wrong, and sort of then extract that and go and present it to the higher management or whoever is asking why the part was late. But here, essentially, everything is captured. Each single click, each single view is captured on the platform. So you could just in one click and go and see the entire history of the order. If it had multiple shipments, you could track each shipment separately. What got late? What did the supplier say? Did they say they were short on parts? And you could then have a good post-mortem session of understanding and improving the efficiency of the order management process.
Yeah, well said. And that's one of the challenge that we heard a lot, is that ERP tend to forget what happened in the past and only keep the last information that was inputted. This is completely fixed with the order tracking system.
Yeah, and in ERPs, I guess one quick thing, Felix, I want to add is in ERPs, your supplier has no access to update the ERP. So it's actually the buyer who's going, reading emails and updating everything in the ERP. Okay, this is going to be late. So there's like this transfer of information that happens. Here, it's just connected. So you come in here, the order management system is connected to your ERP. So each update, as you want it to be updated, is also sort of synced with the ERP. And you don't have to have a place where you're updating information twice. This is connected to your supplier. So the supplier are either accessing it through the portal or just replying back to emails. You get all of that information comprehensively structured within the platform.
So you have a view to track all the active RFQ, the archived one. And again, this can be configured for you as a user, a department, a division, a full factory. So it allows you to have all the information you need stored in a single place that is really easy to access. We'll move into the supplier directory. We mentioned that not only you can manage your existing approved suppliers, but you can also navigate the Axya network, which represents around 20,000 companies in North America. And you can use the platform to look at different potential partners and use a filtering system.
Yeah, and this directory is very powerful. So let's say you sent a request, none of your suppliers replied, or they're all busy. Then essentially you can come in here, use the filtering system. Let's say you're using a CNC part, you could do that. And what's really cool is the map view. If you want somebody who's close to you, you could also essentially go and have a look at that. So you use your filtering, use the criteria. There's over 30,000 suppliers here on the platform, and figure out which one you want to go for. You can click it, look at their profile, decide if they're a good fit, and then add them to your network and keep them for the future. So essentially, buyers run into this scenario where the supplier that they used to rely on either is no longer there, or the person they used to work with is no longer there. Here, you could always be diversifying your supplier base and always have a backup plan in place. So this acts as a pretty good way to be able to achieve that.
Exactly. And we see it happen sometime in a proactive way. You have a new project, you'd be looking for something really specific in a radius that makes sense for your factory. You want to be able to go visit those suppliers. Well, there it is. You have the profile, you have enough information to identify if it's worth your time to go visit them. You can look at all the information that they're provided. Some of them will add some documents about their company, the machine shop, the certification. And based on this, you can add them to the list that we showed previously and start to build that relationship with a new potential partner.
Yeah.
So that would be a wrap up for the buyer side. We talked about managing your supplier list, the approved one, but also new potential partners. We talked about the request for quotation, RFQ section where you can track your work, the work of your colleagues, invite people from engineering or sales to access that information. And we also reviewed all the purchase order section so you can stay on top of ongoing requests. Before we move into the supplier section, I will take a quick pause to let people maybe ask questions in the chat or either on the LinkedIn live or on the Teams presentation. Yeah, great comment, Kevin. As Kevin was explaining, it can be used to reduce the risk of your supply chain. So we free enough time for your team to start to think in a more proactive way. So you can look at the current request, which one of the engagement that you're looking for, historical requests where maybe the lead time were not exactly what you were looking for, and you say, in the future, for those type of complex production, we would need to have new partners. And that's where the directory become a great tool for either your colleague from engineering, from logistic, whoever would love to explore that tool. They can spend some time identifying new partners and really increase the resilience of your supply chain. So that would wrap up today's demo day. We took some time to explain how users can engage with the solution, save a lot of time thanks to the automation that we put in the platform, leverage all the insights and real-time information that are provided to stay on top of ongoing requests, on top of ongoing opportunities, and with the time that is now available, shift into a more analytic way, be more proactive, and have the best impact on the organization, and also work with their potential partners to build long-lasting relationship and really thrive in that dynamic environment.